Hello everybody, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2, and today I have a tutorial for a small wrap cover style journal. And these were so quick, so easy to make, lots and lots of fun. You can use up all kinds of scraps for this, and so I was just in the mood for something small, so this is what I came up with. So the cover for this is made out of a policy envelope, which is this. So it's a long, skinny envelope. It does not have to be a certain size. You can adjust all your measurements accordingly. This particular one is about 9.5 by 4 and it is probably 3/16, so closed up. Yes, about 9.5 by 4 and 3/16. Just to let you know what size we're working with here, but it doesn't have to be that size. I would also like to mention, if you don't have an envelope this size, I do have a freebie template for this envelope on our Facebook group, and I'll leave the link for that down below. You can grab your freebie. It's in 2 pages, and then you have to glue or tape the two images together and then cut it out. But you can certainly make your own envelope, which I did here. I made this one out of a nice cardstock. This would actually make a pretty decent cover too, but it will wear out faster, and like this cardstock is cracking a little bit on the edges, so but that would be fun to explore too. So you can make your envelope from our template, or if you have or can get a hold of some policy envelopes this size, or whatever you have on hand that is similar, you can make this journal. So here, let me just open this. So it's a fabric, it's the policy envelope on the inside, a fabric cover. I have a button and string closure. I put an eyelet here for some charms, and the signature is sewn directly into the spine. So this just wraps around here like this. And it opens up. There's a cardstock lining on the inside. And this is what it looks like on the inside. So I just put a front pocket and a back pocket. This one's a side-facing one, and that one's a plain. And then I did decorate just a tiny bit. I didn't do a whole lot of decorating. I stitched lace on and a little bit of sari silk. And I haven't done a whole lot. I did put a variety of papers on the inside. Some printed papers and tea stained and avocado stained, and looks like even a cabbage stained paper there. So I haven't done a whole lot. I'd like to do just a little bit more, and then I'll probably put this up for sale in our Etsy shop. But super nice, fun size. Let's see, let me give you the dimensions here. It winds up to be just a tiny bit over 4 inches square, with just a little bit of a rounded spine, so you can kind of see that, and a rounded flap that goes over the front of the journal. So that is what we're gonna learn how to make this today. Super excited about this. Just got in the mood for something small, like I said. So let me set this aside. I may need to refer to it in a minute, but so the first thing to grab is a policy envelope. You can see what it'll be like. It'll be like this, and this flap on this side here will wrap around the cover. So it's going to go like this, and then this will wrap around like that. The first thing we're going to do is stick a little bit more reinforcement on the inside of the envelope, and that will be just another piece. Not another piece. That will be a piece of cardstock. This is the paper on this, I'm guessing, is about 32-pound paper, possibly up to maybe a 50-pound paper. It's a pretty nice paper on it, but I do want to reinforce it just a tad. We do have some of these for sale in our Etsy shop. I don't believe we have a lot left. I think there's one group of 10 left, so you can grab those if you'd like. Or like I said, we do have the free template. So what I'm going to do to reinforce this this cover is to put some cardstock, and it could be any old cardstock. This is just some scrap cardstock I had from my work. And I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit. Alright, so that will be to reinforce it on the inside. But before we do that, we're going to make some score lines on both of these so that when we do fold it over on itself, it will fold and just be a gentle curving fold. Okay, so we are going to do that first. And in fact I'm going to slip this in this way, so I'm going to actually do that so I put the right end in. And it looks like we score, I'm looking at my notes here to make sure. We're going to score from the straight edge on both of these pieces. So we're going to score from about 4 1/8 inch, and then just keep going in those 1/8 inch increments until you get up to the 4 3/4. And that'll help us bend the paper without actually making a severe line. And then we're going to go over here to the 8 3/8, so 8 3/8, and we're going to go all the way up to the 9 3/8. Once again, this is just to help us get a nice curve. We don't want any sharp. And yeah, that was it. Okay, so if your policy envelope is in a different place, just hold it up like this, and then figure out where your lines are going to actually need to be scored. So if yours is a little different, don't worry if these measurements are going to be a little different. So once again, putting our, let's just call it the bottom of the envelope, the straight edge, we're putting that up at the top. Or I mean, we're butting that up against the left, and the long edge is at the top, and we're scoring from 4 1/8 to 4 3/4 here. And then we're going to scooch over here to 8 3/8, and every single line score down all the way up to 9 3/8. And we're going to do that on both of these pieces. So this one is done, and do the same thing here. 4 1/8. Oops. It doesn't matter if you get off the line a little bit. It really will not matter. 4 1/8 to 4 3/4. Okay. About like that. Okay, and then 9 1/8 to about, or 8 1/8 I should say, to 9 1/8. To apologize for my fingers. I've been doing a lot of paper staining, and so in my laziness I didn't put gloves on. Alright, so now we're good and scored. We're going to slip that in. And so I didn't really measure this. I just sort of made a little fingernail mark, and just so it slipped in easily. And I left it as long as the paper was long because I thought I would just trim it anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim this because it has the rounded edges, rounded corners. So trim. Okay. Oops, made a mess. Okay, now what I find is that this score mark that came with the that was already in the envelope when I got it, that one is very strong, very pointed and very creased, and I want a more rounded look. So what I usually do at this point is I'll take another scrap paper, slip it in there right where your flap score mark is, just for added strength, added stability. just put a little smattering of glue. It doesn't have to be careful or exact. Slip that in there and just make sure that that double layer of cardstock is behind this very sharp fold. And then just trim off any pieces that you need to. Okay, so that's basically the core of our cover. Alright, so I don't think we need the scoreboard anymore. I don't think. I'm trying to think. So I'm going to set that down. Alright, another important part of our cover is the fabric. So this one is a quilting cotton, and it just was a fun pattern with birds on it. So picking patterns, if you have an overall pattern like this one, for example, of course you don't need to worry too much about placement. However, if you have, let's see if I can find one. If you have a pattern like this, I find as a general rule that the repeating pattern is every 10 inches, and so that would mean that when you fold this over, your pattern here is going to be the same as the one over here, and I don't necessarily want that look. Like, this one is not too terribly bad, but you do have to finagle with it and choose how you're going to cut it. But the one I picked is this one because it's just small enough. I think they're small enough and varied enough that I think it'll be fine when we flip that flap over. So you can always audition it to see how it's gonna, oops, I'm gonna have that upside down. You can audition it by going like this and then pull it a little tight and go like this and hold it over and see if you like the way that looks. And I think I like that. It'll be fine. Like, this camper is the same as that camper, but since they're sort of 3 or 4 in a row, I think it'll look fine. Alright, so that's a little bit about patterns of fabric, but it is up to you. It is up to you. Alright. This one will be a tiny bit tricky because I'm going to have to sort of get the line of campers all going straight. Alright, so the way we're going to put this on, you could, and I did not do this, I've made 2 covers. Oh, I should show you the other one I made. I don't know. Here it is. I haven't put the insides in yet, but here's the other cover I made. And this is, you can see it's just an overall pattern, and I think that looks pretty good. And I used red for the lining, red paper. So, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, when you attach the fabric onto the envelope, you may want to put PVC glue on it and attach it, just a very thin layer. The problem is you may have some bleeding of glue through, so that I hesitate to do that usually. What I usually do is a glue sheet, but I'm trying to conserve my glue sheets right now, so I made these 2 covers that I've already made without using any glue of any kind, and I think they're turning out just fine because they are small. So we're not going to put glue or anything on the envelope at all. We're just going to go ahead and just start attaching the fabric onto the envelope on the back side. So you need to have the flap, the main flap will be over here, the rounded flap, okay, and the straight side is going to be on the left. So make sure your fabric, just kind of pull it over, make sure your fabric's facing the right way. Everything looks good. Okay, so keep this inside part of the cover up facing you. And what you're going to do is, I like to start in one corner and then go about halfway down the long edge. Okay. So what we're going to do here is just clip this straight across like that. Just going to make that glue. I'm going to get a baby wipe so I can keep my fingers clean. Oops, sorry about that, guys. Okay. All right, and then we're gonna make sure the glue is right in the corner. We're gonna take our fabric and wrap it around the corner like that. I use a bone folder for this a lot of times, so I make it as flat as possible. It looks like my glue dried a little bit, so let me add a little bit more glue. I made another wrap style cover out of a manila envelope, and I did use glue sheets for that one. But the way we wrap the fabric around the envelope is very, very similar. Okay, so I'm going crooked. I can see that already. So I need to make sure, because my campers are in a straight line, horizontal line, right? So I need to make sure that I'm not going all crazy and keep checking. If you have an overall print, it's not going to matter as much, but I decided on this camper. Okay, let me see how straight this is. Still going a little crooked. Now I'm getting to have not as much fabric up here, so let me pull this off and try again. Let me try again. Okay, now I'm paying a little bit more attention to my campers. Okay, and I already cut that corner, so now I'm going to have to be careful, but it'll be fine. It will be fine. Try again. Try again. Okay, so we're going to really push that edge, that corner in first, and then go in on each side. Just pull it up and tighten it up if you need to. There we go. So now I'm going by this red line on this camper. See that? So hopefully that'll help me stay straighter this time. No such luck. Still, it dried out a little bit. So we'll get some more glue. Pushing it up. All right. Okay, good. Okay, so now we're tight in the corner there, and the edge, and the red line on the campers kind of line up. So I think we're going pretty well. Yep. All right. Now I'm coming to this rounded edge. So what we do with the rounded edge, and you can certainly do this ahead of time instead of waiting to the last second like I'm doing, but you just clip in, not quite to the envelope, just about 1/8 of an inch away from the envelope. Just do a few clips. That way your glue or your fabric will wrap around. It'll ease the curve. Okay, so I'll just push that in. Alright, and then you've got a nice little rounded flap. Okay, now I didn't leave myself much room on this edge, but I think it'll be fine. As long as I get a nice bead of glue under there. Normally you want to cut this about a 1/2 inch on all sides bigger. I do think I forgot to mention that, but okay, so I'm clipping my corner. My glue is spilling out everywhere. You know how it Fabri-Fix has a tendency to do that once it gets a certain level and the air gets in it. Okay, so we are just wrapping some more. I'm going to put a line of glue all the way, not all the way, about half the way. So you don't want to get glue on the underside of your envelope. We're just trying to keep it right on the surface here, but fairly close to the edge so it gets a nice it adheres well. Okay, so I'm making sure this is nice and flat too, because if it accidentally bunched up, it's gonna ruin the look of the cover. So just making sure it's nice. So we're pulling, you know, we had that first edge and we wrapped it around, made sure it was nice and even, and now we're pulling pretty tightly, but not too tightly, because otherwise your paper's gonna buckle, right? Alright, and then this one, before we get to the very end, we are going to clip this, leaving 1/8 of an inch or so away from the corner. So we've got a sort of an angled cut there. Look at my glue. That is a mess. So I'm just going to use my finger. And I'm going to get this corner first, making sure the glue is all the way to the corner. Okay. Get the corner pushed in. Make sure it's holding. Okay. And then go ahead and wrap the fabric around the edge of the envelope. And then all we need to do is put a little bit of glue right here, and then we'll be done wrapping the fabric. Give it a little even coat. All right. Okay. And smooth it down. Nice and smooth. Okay. Okay, this isn't glued very well, so I'm going to just give this a little smidge. Okay, and just a little smidge right there too. All right. Okay. So now that we have our fabric on, let's take a look at it. Okay, so we've got this, and it wraps around like that. Okay, all right, so the next step would be, there are a couple things here. I sewed around the edge of this, if you can see that, in sort of a little bit darker green than this aqua green on here. This one I sewed a contrasting red stitch on there. And this one I wanted to sew red as well. So I'm going to sew, I'm going to wait till this dries a tiny bit. I'm going to sew around the edge. Okay, so that is the next step. Another step you may want to do, let me show you what I mean, is to sew the button on. Now, I literally sewed the button on with like a cord, a binding cord, like this, and then left the ends kind of sticking up, poking out. So what I did was I sewed it on after I had my cardstock lining, but you can sew it on right now if you prefer, and that way you can cover up your stitch with the cardstock lining. However, I sewed it on later, and so I just punched out a circle out of the same color as this and put it over my stitches. So either way is fine, but those two things could happen, should happen right now. But if you forget the button until later, not to worry, it'll work out. All right, so I'm going to go to my sewing machine, take care of this, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, I am back after top stitching. All right, so I used red. So I top stitched around the outside edge, red, and on the inside I used a blue, and got that all done, and then I sewed on the button. I used red button and some pink twine to just directly sew that on. All right, and you could leave it. I don't suppose you need to top stitch it. I'm trying to think. I think it's best to top stitch it, but I'm thinking you maybe not. You could probably get by with not doing it if you don't want to, or you could do like some curvy stitching, like wavy. I think that'd be cute. Decorative stitching, couple rows of wonky stitching. So anything, whatever you look you'd like. And then I also kind of worked the spine, just get that rounded sort of fold or bend to it. So I just kind of work it back and forth until it's kind of rounded. Then we have sort of like a little wallet style, right? Okay. All right. It's looking good. Yay. All right. The next part, we're going to line this. You could line the whole thing with fabric if you'd like. Just use a thin layer of glue. You could, I don't prefer that because a lot of times that glue seeps through and then your whole thing is ruined. Have to start over. If that doesn't bother you, though, that is perfectly fine. I was doing it with cardstock, and I used 2 pieces of cardstock. You could use 1 piece of cardstock and just do the whole thing if you'd like. Just make sure you score your places before you do that. What I've been doing is putting a small piece of cardstock there, a longer one here, and I will have to score this in a minute, and then putting fabric on this main spine where the pages, this is where the pages are going to get sewn in, so that it's our book, right? So these will be sewn right in here. So I usually, just to reinforce it, and I think it's a fun look anyway, is I usually put fabric here. So that's just what I've been doing, but you certainly could do paper or all fabric. Okay, so I'll give you the measurements. Certainly if you have a different size envelope, you'll need to adjust your size a little bit. I have 3 7/8 inch tall for both of these pieces. This one is 3 5/8 inches wide this way. Sorry, it got stuck. 3 5/8 inches this way, and this one is 5 3/4 inches this way. And we are going to need to trim this off a little bit over here, but so this is the way it'll basically look. This will be here, this will be here, and then the center will be exposed, and then we're going to put our fabric there. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and glue this one in. You can ink the edges first if you would like to, depending on what you're looking for. I like to take my 1/4 inch rounder and just round those edges just a tiny bit. All right, and then just take your glue and glue this right on. Basically, it's harder and slower to have to sit and explain everything, but if you get one of these down under your belt, the rest will come along really easily. They're very quick. especially if you don't do a lot of embellishing. If you do embellishing, of course, that will take longer, but both ways are amazing. All right, so that, we're going to hold that down for a second. I have a little bit of loose threads right here, so I'm just clipping those off. You could even just do a little smattering of glue right there just to keep it from raveling any further. Okay, so there, that's good and stuck. Okay, so now this side, what I'm going to do is, before I do any gluing, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to hold this up where I, evenly on all the edges, and then I'm going to turn this over and trace the line. And then when I cut this, I'm going to cut this down, and I'm going to cut inside the line because it doesn't have to come right up to the edge right there. So this is a very unscientific way of doing this, but I don't think there's any way to really do it. I guess one of the times you do it, you could make a template, and that way you're all set for the next one. Okay, that looks pretty good, except it needs to be a little bit more rounded right here. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, and then we're going to, before we do that though, we're going to score. So I'm not going to measure. What I'm going to do real quickly here is just put a little tick mark where my other score marks begin and end, about like that. Okay. I know I said I wasn't going to need my scoreboard, but I did. Alright, so we're going to score, and that will help us be able to bend again without cracking or folding in a weird way. And help keep it nice and rounded. Alright. Now I have to erase my pencil marks. I should have put them on the opposite side. On the back side. Alright. This glue is very stringy. I left the lid off one whole night. And you know what happens. I'm going to sort of bring some of that glue out to the edge, get our edges. Okay. And glue that right in. Okay. Give it a nice burnish. And looks like I got a little bit crooked, so try to fix that a little bit. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. All right, so now after what I've said about the glue, right? We're going to glue this down, and I cannot find my PVA glue. Yeah, it's messy around here. It's messy around here. What can I say? So I am going to use my Fabri-Tac, which is no big deal. It's a good thing to use for fabric, right? It's Fabri-Fix, looks like. Although I think that is a bottle that I mixed. I mixed different ones because I was running out, and I filled up the bottle. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just smoothing it with my finger, making a nice even coat. Because if you have globs, that's when it's going to leak through to your fabric. And as evenly as possible, we are going to lay this down. Take a peek. Looks good. And that looks good. Just a tiny bit. There we go. Smooth that down. Yes. And I just ripped this fabric. I don't mind the look of that. I just ripped it. Looks kind of cool. All right. now your cover is done, except for the tie, but that's super easy and we'll wait to the end to do that. All right, the next step is you could either sew this in right now, decorate your pages. I have 40, so I have 40 pages, but it's 20 sheets of paper, right? And then if you include fronts and backs, there are 80 pages here, and I used it in one I put it in one giant signature, just a fat chunky signature. Before you sew this in, do any kind of decorating that you want to do. You probably don't want to do tons, so it doesn't make it hard to close, or otherwise it might be hard to close, but just do whatever you would like to on the pages first, and then we'll sew them in. And then, so either before you sew that in or after, you could make your pockets too. So this is just little scraps of paper. These are from a paper pad I had, and I put some sari silk at the top, so those are super easy. I stitched around the pocket as well, just to give it a little extra something. And then this one is the exact same style as this, only it's sideways, and then I tucked some tags. These were pre-made tags, and I just added paper and then cut around it. So, and then I have a twine on the tops of those. So that just, I think that gives it a nice touch. You can do that. You don't have to do that, or find something else to do on it. So like I said, decorate the pages as you'd like, and then it comes time to sew them in. Before we sew them in, I forgot, we need to decide on the eyelet. So I put an eyelet with my eyelet setting machine right here, and I would do that right now, figure out where to put it. If your measurements are the same as mine, let's give you a measurement here. If your measurements are exactly the same as mine, it's going to be 3 3/4 inches from the straight edge. So 3 3/4 inches from the straight edge, make an eyelet, bring it down about 1/4 of an inch, or just scant 1/4 of an inch from the top, about 3 3/4 inches from here. Put in your eyelet with your eyelet setting machine tool, whatever you have, and then I just used jump rings and I attached these charms onto there. So you can do that now before you sew in the pages. I did have my pages sewn in before I did that, and it really wasn't that big of a deal, but it will be much easier if you don't have to work around all those pages. So put the eyelet in now, and then either do your pockets first, sew your signature in first. You guys know the drill. I would just go exactly halfway here. In fact, as I usually draw a line, make sure you're nice and even. Take some clips, clip your pages onto your cover. I think I'm a little crooked, so I'm going to try fixing that a little bit. Alright, mucho better. Okay. Okay, and then you'll need an awl. And this is such a small project, you almost don't need to measure. Normally I would have like a template for this and poke it, but we are going to just figure it out here. Alright. Okay, there's my center. I'm just going to poke this straight down. Okay. And then go about a 1/2 inch down from the top. Poke it straight down. Oops, that one's a little hard. There we go. 1/2 inch from the bottom, poke it down. Okay, and then you're going to sew your pamphlet stitch through there. So, do I want red or pink? Somebody tell me what to do. I'm going to do red. Is that what you picked? Did you pick pink or red? And the amount of thread will be 2 times the length, and then I give it a little tail for good measure and a knot. Okay, I know you guys know how to do this, and you've probably seen it a million times. And then we'll do the closure. Oh, another thing I was going to mention too, this would be a cute traveler's notebook style. So before you, well, at the same time you do your eyelet here, you could do an eyelet on the spine, eyelet here, and eyelet there, string elastic through there, and then just slip your pages under the elastic and make it a traveler's notebook. You could do that. You would need to make these, I think, the pages a little bit shorter, because you don't want the elastic to go through the hole and then up and over the page, right? You want it to go pretty much just straight at the top of the page. Otherwise, it's going to put too much pressure on your page. I hope that was clear. Okay, so bring your from the inside back down through the cover, leave a little tail, then go in the top hole or the bottom hole, doesn't matter. Okay, and then down through the opposite end. Okay, and then let's see, let's flip it over. I would hold this tail off to one side, okay, and then bring your needle and thread through the center hole again and through all those holes that you made. Try not to split the cord. Oops. Okay, I'll try again here. There we go. All right, just pull that through. Bring one side of your tail over on one side of the long string and your other tail on the other side of the long string. Okay, give those a pull. I shouldn't have done that sideways. Just pull straight up on one at a time. Pull straight up. Make sure that you're nice and flat here, and then just... Okay, my camera did shut off. I know it wasn't that long ago, so I'm not sure what you saw, but I think we were in the middle of tying this knot. So just tie a knot, tie it one way, and then switch your strings and tie it the opposite way so you get a good, nice square knot, and then just clip off the ends, leaving a little bit. You don't want to clip it too close. All right, so then you can take all your clips off, and this is what you've got. You've got your pages sewn in. If you had any decorating to do, do that first and then sew them in. Now you can make pockets on those sides there. And now we're going to figure out how to close it. So if you had made this into a traveler's notebook, you would put your eyelet here, and then one in the middle to make an elastic to go around. Or you can have it like this. You can make a free floating elastic with a button on one end and make it a button and elastic closure. That type of closure, you wouldn't sew the button on here. The button would actually be on the elastic, and then you'd wrap it on itself. But today we are going to actually, I think if I have enough of this cord left, I'm going to use that baker's twine. So let me see what I have. I think I might have enough, but it does have a big old knot in it, so I do have, I wonder if this would work. I think I would prefer the red and white. So I'm going to see if I can get this knot out without too much trouble. If not, we'll just use regular red. Yeah, we're going to use regular red. I have this actually. Let's do this one. And I'm going to undo all this. You know, I wonder if this red might actually look really cool. I'm going to do the red. Okay, nothing like changing your mind in the middle of Nowheresville. All right. Let me get that end out. And one more time. Okay, so my other baker's twine wrapped around 3 times. So let's see what we've got here. If I tie that about like that, I've got 1, 2, 3. All right, we're going to do that. It winds up to be about 4, looks like. You can do whatever you like. Okay, so very simply, be tying a knot in here and tucking it under the button. So just tie it twice into a nice tight knot. You can leave this little tail or cut it off a tad. Okay, and then here it is. Just wrap it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll just give it a little whirl around the button, and there you have it. You can put an eyelet here for your charms. On this one, I also put a bead on the end of the wrap string, so you can do that as well. But that's the basic journal. So lots of room for creativity. Really fun project. I cannot wait. I'm going to make a bunch more. I have some fabric picked out, and that's it. So today, or tomorrow, I mean, is the last day for our Red Cross fundraiser. We do have prizes. And let me just show you. Sorry, here I come. This is one of the prizes. It's a journal, bird with a bird theme, and this is one of the prizes. So I hope you will go to our I'll leave the link below for our Red Cross fundraiser. All of our money will be going towards the COVID-19 relief efforts, and you may win a prize. So, but it ends tomorrow, which is April 18th, and I will draw a name in the afternoon. I'm not sure what time, because sometimes I don't know what's going on Saturdays. So I'm not sure what time, but tomorrow is the last day, April 18th, 2020. So please donate to the Red Cross if you would, and help us out, help them out, and all kinds of folks. That would be so wonderful, and we are offering a prize to a lucky winner. So I hope you win. I hope you make some of these. Please tag us and let us see what you made. That would be so great. These just happen to have the same colors, don't they? I was just looking in my monitor. That wasn't intentional, but I still I love these, and I'm super excited to make some more. Anyway, enough jabbering. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you so much. Take care, and we will talk to you later. Bye.